Hello, dear friends. In the deserts of Burkina Faso, where for miles there was nothing but seas of sand, Ibrahim Traoré began a project that left even the world's top experts stunned. Just imagine, in a land where for centuries even grass could not grow, someone saying it will turn into green fertile gardens. Your first reaction would surely be that it's impossible. But Ibrahim turned the impossible into reality. When he took leadership of Burkina Faso, his greatest concern was that the land was rapidly becoming barren. Every year, thousands of acres were lost to the spread of the desert. And if this continued, future generations would struggle for even a single grain of food. Ibrahim realized that if nothing was done today, tomorrow it would be too late. So he launched a massive tree planting campaign, one that involved not just the government, but also ordinary citizens. Astonishingly, he didn't limit this effort to just planting trees. He made it a national responsibility. He announced that every citizen would have to plant a few trees each year or take part in caring for them. Even at weddings, couples planted a tree to mark their special day, so that along with their happiness, a new tree would also grow. Slowly, this campaign turned into a national movement. Everywhere, people marched towards the desert with saplings in their hands, and this became a new ray of hope for the whole nation. For the first time in Burkina Faso's history, millions of trees were planted. But the story didn't end there. Despite planting millions of trees, within a few years, a shocking problem appeared. Sandstorms and high winds ripped the young plants from their roots. Those small saplings that tried to take hold either suffocated under the sand or had their roots exposed and dried up. Another major obstacle was that desert soil was almost barren, offering nothing to feed the plants, just dry sand. Because of this, most of the hard-planted trees died within 2 to 3 years. Many people became disheartened, saying the desert could never be conquered, and some even mocked Traoré's dream as unrealistic. But Ibrahim refused to give up. He said, the wounds of the land are deep, so the treatment must also be big. And from here, a unique idea was born that changed everything. Ibrahim Traoré decided that if living plants couldn't survive the harsh desert, then dead plants must be used to bring life. Yes, he declared that millions of tons of leftover stalks, stems, and dead plant from harvest would be collected and buried beneath the desert sand. At first, people thought it was madness, asking how dead plants could help the soil. But Traoré's eyes were fixed on the future. Every year, thousands of tons of crop residue went to waste, but now for the first time, it was being used as a treasure. He ordered workers to spread these stalks in a special chessboard pattern on the sand. Within each square, seeds were planted so that when the stalks decayed, they would turn into natural fertilizer and give the plants new life. This method didn't just create fertilizer, it also trapped the sand so winds couldn't blow it away. It was as if dead stalks carried the secret of life within them. In the very heart of the desert, a foundation was being laid that would become revolutionary for Burkina Faso's future. The project of building straw grids became a technique that laid the groundwork for transforming the desert. Traoré instructed the workers to lay stalks over the sand in patterns like a chessboard. These squares didn't just hold the sand in place. They also created a natural protective shield for the growing plants. Friends, just imagine the scene. Under the blazing desert heat, workers drenched in sweat stood in long lines, spreading stalks across the sand. The grids looked like golden nets stretched across the dunes. Inside these squares, seeds were planted that could withstand the harshest conditions. Within a few years, the stalks decomposed into fertilizer and fresh plants began to grow from within. The sand, once uncontrollable, was now trapped inside the squares. The grids held the land together, stopped the flow of sand, and gave plants the support they needed to survive. Soon, places that had once been only dry dunes were covered in grass. And all this was made possible by a strategy that seemed simple, but in reality was powerful enough to change the entire nation's future. At first, even experts did not believe this method could produce such results. But within a few years, when the effects became clear, everyone was shocked. The greatest success was that sand movement was reduced by 99%. The sand that once stormed like waves and buried trees was now locked inside the straw grids, as if the desert's wild winds had been clipped of their wings. Not only that, but the stalks, as they decomposed, turned into natural fertilizer, breathing new life into dead soil. Where once there was only dry sand, nutrients began to form. Farmers were astonished by this change, because for the first time, they felt even desert soil could be fertile. Plant survival rates multiplied. Saplings that once couldn't last a few years now grew firm and strong. These results proved that Ibrahim Traoré's dream was turning into reality, and for the first time, Burkina Faso's land began to breathe again. Initially, workers spread stalks by hand under the blazing sun, sweating heavily, but this process was time-consuming and limited. So, Traoré introduced modern machinery to automate the to work. These machines wove stalks into long rope-like strips and laid them in straight lines across the sand. Amazingly, these rope-like grids lasted up to 6 years, twice as long as the normal method, and could even be reused as the machines pulled them back once the job was done. This saved labor, time, and costs, making the plan forward 6 times more effective. It looked as if a magical hand was weaving golden nets across the desert in moments. This boosted plant survival dramatically and showed that when technology and vision come together, even the hardest challenge becomes easy. Now, let's look at the part that proved Ibrahim Traoré wasn't just focused on planting trees, but on transforming the country's entire infrastructure. When talk began about new railways and highways crossing the desert, most people said it was impossible. Sandstorms would bury the tracks and roads within moments, and workers believed such projects wouldn't last. But Traoré applied the same old method of straw grids. Imagine, where once sandstorms stopped trains every year, now golden straw grids lined both sides of the tracks. Plants growing inside these squares slowly turned the surrounding land green. The same happened with roads. Highways that once disappeared in months now stood strong for years. Seeing this success, global experts admitted that if this method worked in Burkina Faso, it could be repeated in deserts around the world. In this way, Ibrahim Traoré not only made the desert green, but also gave his people the confidence that with effort and wisdom, the impossible can be made possible. Friends, this story teaches us that even with limited resources, if the will is strong, barren lands can also carry the message of life. And perhaps that is why today the world calls Traoré Africa's environmental hero.